Okay, sorry this picture is sideways, but for this project, you're gonna need something for the center of your wreath. I chose that Thankful wooden pumpkin from Walmart. I used a couple of picks of pumpkins also from Walmart. And then you will need a wreath form. I used one from Dollar Tree, and then lots of ribbon, whatever kind of ribbon you like, but you need tons of it because you're gonna need to cover this whole thing with ribbon. I did not use the raffia, so you don't need that. Okay, so the first thing I did was I took some of this burlap. I got this big burlap from Walmart, and you'll see later that I ended up cutting this in half because it was just way too big, but I kind of tied this to see what size I wanted to cut my pieces. So I tied this up, and then I went ahead and cut the size that I wanted based on what it was going to look like tied up. And then I took this size and then cut all the rest. I went ahead and cut a bunch of them. So I started out using this bigger wreath form, and I ended up using a smaller wreath form. So I cut 9 of them, one to put in each section of the wreath form. But I ended up using a smaller wreath form, which you will also see in just a second. But I did almost use all of the burlap that I cut, so cutting 9 ended up not being too bad of a thing. Next, I did the same thing for this gold ribbon, and then I did it again for the orange and green and all the different kinds of ribbon. So I'm not gonna go through showing you cut every single piece of ribbon because that would be ridiculous, but I cut them all the same size. So, and then once I placed them on the wreath form, I realized that I might need more ribbon, and so I cut more. So you kind of just have to see what fits on your wreath form. Besides ribbon, I also used some of this fabric right here, and I found this at Walmart also, and I just cut it into strips about the same length as the ribbon I was using, and did the exact same thing with this. I cut it into as many strips as I could to make as much ribbon as I could. Okay, and this is where I decided to use the smaller wreath. So I took the burlap off of the bigger wreath and started tying it here. Here, I just made sure there was at least one big burlap piece in each section of the wreath. So I went around and tied one of the bigger burlap pieces. I wanted to use this bigger burlap because I knew that it would cover more of the wreath and it would be less expensive to cover more of the wreath. So that's what I did here. I just started tying it, and you will see later that because the burlap sort of swings around the wreath, you kind of have to hot glue it in place, but I didn't do that quite yet because I wanted to make sure that everything was placed where I wanted it to be placed. Okay, and once the burlap was on, I went ahead and started doing the orange ribbon, and I did the exact same thing. I just made sure there was at least one orange ribbon in each section before moving on to the green ribbon. Next, I started using the fabric that I had cut up, and I had a lot more of this than I had of ribbon. So I went ahead and used as much of this as I possibly could to cover as much space as I possibly could. Here I just am adding some orange chevron that I had in my stash. This is from the Dollar Tree. I like that this one is a little bit smaller, so it adds some dimension to the wreath. Here I'm just adding some hot glue so that the ribbons don't sort of swing around the wreath, because I couldn't tie them quite tight enough to keep them from moving. Now, I didn't get a video of myself putting on the middle piece, the thankful pumpkin, and so I did just use the wire that was at the top of it to sort of wrap around the wreath frame, and then I hot glued the bottom to some of the ribbon. So that's how I attached that.